Hey, welcome to the show. My name is Pat Dewar. I'm interviewing a coach that has touched the nation. I'm really excited about Orrin Rudolph today. He has been a mentor of mine for a number of years, a coach that I have hired, which I highly recommend you do that too. If you're a minister of any aspect, one of the things that I've run into around the country is a lot of speakers are ministers in the public, and they're sharing their light and their life, and it's such an honor to see that happening. I know that Orrin has touched all 50 states in the U.S. and in so many ways bringing leadership and communication and real healing to folks all over the country. For the past 10 years, he has literally done hundreds of workshops, pretty much a year in the first several years. And I know he's curved it back so he can really grow the things that he's passionate about and the things that he's doing right now in helping people let it go. And let's talk about that. Orrin, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you, Patrick. It's a pleasure. And I love just, sharing my passion. And I would love speaking to you about it because we've been friends for a while since you hired me on as a coach. And so it's been really a good relationship and it's built over the years. So thank you so much for inviting me on the show.
It's an honor. One of the things that I'm really excited about, Orrin, is I really want to get into your story of how through the years you've literally been training and teaching people to snap those, what I call spiritual chains of bondage that hold people back from really experiencing their passion, their zeal for life, their ability to love and have deep relationships with others, and really create success in their lives. That's something that I want to know more about, because now I know you've got a new book and we'll get into that, but I want to know the background story. How'd you get to where you're at?
Well, thanks, Patrick. Yeah, that's a long story, but I'm going to try and keep it succinct. And, forgiveness is always for a long time. I've been speaking now for probably about 20 years in front of crowds and in front of people. And as you said, I've been in every state in the United States, taught over 15,000 hours of seminars and training, and spoken to over 100,000 people in those 10 to 11 years. But one of the messages that has really been in my heart for the longest time, as I said, was this whole message of forgiveness. And one of the reasons for this was the whole aspect. I saw people getting taught how to deal with either their emotions or dealing with other people's issues and dealing with all what I like to call the fruit of things. And the problem with dealing with the fruit is you can pick a fruit, but the fruit just keeps coming back. And it was very frustrating because I teach these classes on how to manage your emotions, give them the 10 steps to do this or the 15 steps to do that. And, I'd hear stories after the fact of people who'd follow the steps and it would work for a while. But the problem is that steps are only as powerful as, if you do them. But what happens if you let down your guard and there's still that poison sitting there? It's going to come out when you least expect it. And so I started teaching. I was teaching managing emotions under pressure, which were around the country, and helping people manage their emotions. And that was my frustration. I teach these things, but something in me was always, because I've got this deep desire to see people totally free, not just free on the surface, but really getting down to the real root of things. I started to teach within my seminars about an hour's worth of forgiveness. And, let's not be fruit pickers. Let's start getting down to the root. If we can fix the root, if we can deal with the root, then we don't have to worry about the fruit, because the fruit is attached to the root. And so that's what I started speaking and started sharing with people. And out of a 6-hour seminar, what people would pick on, what people would come to me for, what people would really, open up, was that 1 hour of 6 hours. That 1 hour was was special to them. It was the most unique, was the most impactful youthful, if I could say that. And so people come to me afterwards and say, have you written a book? Have you, because I'd share personal stories and so on. They say, well, have you written a book? Is there something, what kind of resources can I get for that, for forgiveness? Because I've got a real issue in this area. Maybe it was with their parents, maybe it was a spouse or a child or a family member that was distant, or a boss or a coworker or whatever it was. Inevitably somebody would have something that they were holding on to, and they would come and ask me that. And I would say, no, I don't. But a seed was planted. And about 10 years ago, I started putting pen to paper. And I still remember it. I was in a plane flying to Chicago. I was teaching in Chicago. And I pulled out my laptop and I was sitting there. And I still remember opening up my Word document and typing in these words, "Let it go," which then became the title of my book. But it just resonated with me. At that time, there was no Disney movie. There was no Let It Go song. So, they say, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Well, I can tell you that my title of my book came long before the Disney's Let It Go song came out. And so I penned that on paper, but it was so relevant because people don't let things go. We hold on to things, and the things we hold on to damage us. So, that is kind of just in a nutshell, a little bit how my book came to, but, I'll share with you a little bit of my passion. But is there other questions you'd like to ask?
Yeah, actually, one of the things I want to say is that, as you know, there have been a lot of studies on what are called peg points, critical events in people's lives. And I know that when many times between the ages of about 9 and 14, we have these critical events that create these damages.
Yes.
What they become, and I hear it in your message, and I want to make sure I'm hearing everything correctly, is that this pain turns into a seed. That seed then gets planted into our heart and into our life. And then out of that seed grows a pain tree. And the pain tree has a root system and a fruit system. And when we have these addiction and codependence and unforgiveness and anger and fear and guilt and shame, these become just signals that you've got unprocessed pain. There are things that you need to let it go and move on, because if you don't, they just come back around, because in that unconscious mind, they become that peg point that if anything smells like that in the future, we revert back to that moment and we relive the emotion of that moment in the present as adults. And it's really holding people back. It's holding people back in their relationships with coworkers and friends. But more specifically, I see it damaging marriages to the point of a 50+% divorce rate in America. And many of our kids, what we do in moderation, our kids do to excess. These kids aren't even really wanting to get married because they're afraid they're going to be like their parents. So when we look at this message that you created, I'm curious how you're using this to create the success that you're having in your career and in your life as a speaker and as now an author of this amazing book.
Well, and just going back, and everything you said is absolutely true. I think people underestimate the whole power of unforgiveness and the power of forgiveness. And as you said, these seeds are planted constantly. I talk about it in my book about these weapons that are used against us, and I give 4 weapons: what people say to us, what people don't say, what people do, and what people don't do. And these all create wounds in our lives. And as you said, these wounds can be as early as childbirth and can move throughout our lives and create massive amounts of damage if we don't deal with them. And so you know, with that in mind, how the question being, how have I created success or within this whole topic? You know, one of the things that I've realized very early on is that if you're not transparent and if you're not real with people, people will see right through you. And that is one of the things with this book and with the success of this book is I've tried to be as absolutely transparent as possible. There is nothing that I see as sacred in the sense of not willing to share. I think I see myself laying myself bare in the areas that I have struggled with, the areas that I have been weak in, the areas that I've really battled with in this whole thing of forgiveness, is a point where I can see others getting healed because of my transparency. So I see it that if I'm holding anything back, if I'm not being open and honest about my own struggles, about my own issues, I am being selfish because I'm not allowing other people to get healed because I'm deciding to hold myself back. So in a sense, I've, you know, within this book and within my life, there is one area that I've always strived to be, and that's transparent. If I'm weak in an area or I'm battling an area, I want you to know about it because most probably you are battling in a very similar area. And if I don't tell you about or be honest that I'm battling in that area, you are not going to be honest and you're going to hide it. And anything hidden, anything underground has time to fester and has time to rot, if you would, and it can create significant damage. So to answer your question, you know, I've tried to be, as I said, that's one of the areas I find with success with this book, and everybody who's read this book has said, man, you know, for once, somebody's actually being honest and open with me. Somebody has laid themselves bare. And because of that, I can see myself in those pages. I can see myself in the areas where I've been wounded, either with my father or my mother or with, you know, the different people that we come into contact. So, yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but you know,
No,
transparency is absolutely
exactly right. Because I mean, as I read through the book, that was the one thing I saw is that you were telling stories that, you know, a lot of people may not normally say. But one of the things that I found, and tell me if you would agree with this, is that if you and I and a team, a group of people, were climbing a mountain,
right,
and let's say that there's somebody ahead of us, you know, like a Zig Ziglar or somebody at the head of the pack, right?
right,
And when you're going up a mountain, that team lead isn't the most valuable player to you. Your most valuable team member in climbing a real rough mountain is the one that's 6 to 8 feet in front of you.
mm-hmm.
The one that's going down that path just a few feet. Because if you fall, they've got a hand for you.
Yes.
When I look at what you're doing, Orrin, there's a bunch of people that you're able, through your stories and through your message, to reach back and guide them through that pass, through that little portion of where they're needing the breakthrough right now.
Right.
And as an amazing coach that you are, that makes the difference. I know it made the difference in my life, and you helped me create tremendous success, and I'm so grateful for that. But it was because you were just a little in front of me at the time in some areas. Actually, you were a long way in front of me, but the point, you were willing to come back down the mountain, right, and be that person that gave me the seeds and the tools to get across those rough patches. And so, yeah, I mean, I see exactly what you're saying. Now, this book, I'm curious, who is it written for? Who is it written for? And if you could kind of identify what you think is the now it's just my term. I call it a 9-pound pearl. It's that part, that message that I believe the creator of the universe wrote in your heart. That every time you roll it into a room out of your mouth, you write it on paper, and someone picks it up and they hold it and they internalize it. It's like chains start snapping off and they become free. What is the kernel of the message, and who should be reading this book right now?
Well, That's a very good, important question. You know, when I first started writing this book, I started with a very broad viewpoint. Everybody needs to read this book. But as the book got published and as I started to release the book, I noticed that, you know, not everybody is going to read a book. Firstly, I think a person who's going to read the book is somebody who, in some sense, realizes I'm not perfect. I don't have everything together. There are areas in my life that I'm not letting go in. And so the majority that are going to pick up this book, the majority of people that are going to read this book that I've discovered are the people that are they're not putting on airs. They are saying, you know what, I need to be real. I want to be free. They are people who need to read this book are people who are wanting to be successful in the future. They're tired of dragging around weights. They're tired of dealing with the same thing over and over again. Every time Christmas comes along, dealing with those same people at the Christmas table. Every day they go into work, dealing with those people that are eating their lunch, lying in bed at night, thinking of certain people in their lives that, you know, they'd love to get revenge on or, you know, get back at because they got hurt. There's many instances that I can go on and on about, but it's really, you know, start at the beginning. People who themselves are saying enough's enough. I am ready to live free. I'm ready to throw off that weight that binds me, the weight that's holding me back, that constant, you know. And here's the other thing. Sometimes people won't even know that they're carrying a weight, as in it's not very evident, but there's something inside of them that says, yes, there is something there. I don't know what it is, but I'd also like to find out what it is. So there's the self-discovery. People who are really wanting to discover, is there things that are going to hinder me in success? So their key is looking forward, and they're motivated to read this book by the reward that the book will bring them. In other words, like a bear to honey. A bear is willing to get stung to get the honey. So there are going to be people that are going to be willing to read this book and get stung in a sense, because they're going to find things that they've forgotten about or haven't been willing to deal with. So they pushed it down, hidden it aside, but they feel that in order for them to really be successful in the future, be it in business, be it in their relationships with their spouses or their kids, they know that there has to be something that has to be done. And if they don't even know that they got forgiveness, they're willing to even dig in to make sure that they don't have unforgiveness, so that something won't crop up in the least opportune moment. I think that's many times that happens, especially in marriage. People are going along, and then something in the marriage happens that brings back a memory from the past, and there could be an explosion or a situation that happens, and because that thing is suddenly uncovered, and they didn't even know it was there. So, you know, married couples who are saying, you know what, I don't want surprises. I want to make sure that I've dealt with what I needed to be dealt with. Then there's obviously those.
Well, I was just going to say, one of the things that I encourage you to include, and I know you do, but is, you know, the people that are on their second or their third marriage.
Correct.
Hey, folks, look, life is cyclical when we don't learn the lesson the first time. And so, you know, there's a part of you that's going to say, look, if you didn't learn it last time, good, because you didn't die. Hey, let's go do it again. And it has the power. It has the strength to take you there.
You know, as I say in my book, I say, you know, that the way you exit something is the way you enter something else. And there's only one common denominator, and that's you. So, you know, if you are in the second and the third and the fourth marriage, there is obviously something. It's not always the other person. Yes, the other person could play a part. But the truth is that you carry your baggage with you. And unless you get rid of the baggage, unless you take it off your shoulders, you're going to just carry it into your next marriage. And then you've now you pick up more baggage in that marriage, and then you carry it into the next one. And all that's happening is getting heavier and heavier and heavier. And as I say, you're the common denominator. And you're right. The insanity has to come to an end.
Absolutely.
And, as you say, you can't just keep doing the same thing over and over and then
Well,
trying to expect.
I even encourage you to go further with that. And I know you will in the book and in the presentations you're given on it, just because people, if you're in your second marriage, did they bring a couple of kids into the marriage? And how are you going to mess them up with your
Right.
God? I mean,
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
change the legacy that you leave so that you can walk in freedom and love. I mean, the real fruit of going through your book, Orrin, that I see is you get freedom, which means that you have options, which means you have a different way to impact people in their lives and in the legacy you leave of freedom and love. I mean, I just think that's so amazing. I'm curious, how do you want people to, one, how can we pick up a copy of the book? What forms are it in? And how do you want people to connect to you? And if someone wants to hire you as a coach, which I recommend, how do they do that? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And let me just say just to go back to something you said. One of the things that I wrote this book, when I wrote this book, was two things. One, to make it an easy read so that you don't have to have a psychology degree to pick this thing up. You don't have to even be a Christian to read it. That's one of the things that I made sure. I feel, your religious status is not, shouldn't be a detriment for you to read, be it that you're a Christian or not a Christian, be it that you're married or not married, single, divorced, fifth marriage, whatever your status in life, that shouldn't hinder you from picking up this book and reading it, because number one, I've made it simple. I've tried to keep it simple but powerful with stories, a lot of stories. Two, I'm trying to make it practical. So in other words, by the time you finish reading this book, not only will you have uncovered the areas of unforgiveness in your life, but you'll have also know the steps on how to get rid of it. That's the first thing, how to deal with unforgiveness. And thirdly, how to continue walking in it. Because here's the biggest problem that I find. People might forgive. I mean, people have said I've forgiven. But the problem is, if you keep picking it up, if you don't understand how to stop picking that unforgiveness up, because it's so easy to. So thirdly, the third thing I want to make sure is that we continue walking in forgiveness. Are there some principles, some ways, practical ways for you to keep walking in that forgiveness with those people and not re-picking up that unforgiveness? And then finally, the final part of the book is how to strengthen yourself so that you are not somebody who easily picks up unforgiveness. There are a lot of people that are what I call, they are offense gatherers. They get offended very easily. And it's not something that just happens overnight. It's a long process. It's got into a habit of picking up offense. They become professional offense gatherers. So I go into teaching people how to strengthen the muscles of forgiveness so that you are not easily picking up offense, that you can walk strong. Because one thing I know is people who don't pick up offense easily, and the people who are people who know who they are, know their identity, they're strong and they are successful people. So there's a success element in the book. So going back to your previous question, so I just wanted to kind of clarify that because a lot of people will look at the book and go, wow, this is 295 pages. Man, this could be a real heavy read. It's not a heavy read. It's everybody that has read this book has told me that it is an easy read, but they take slow because sometimes they'll reread pages upon pages and go over it and go back and reread it again because it's revealing areas, it's opening up areas. People can get hold of me in a couple of ways. Firstly, they can get through my website at orrinrudolph.com. That's spelled ORRIN Rudolph, RUDOLPH.com. They can get hold of me by my email, though on the website they do have the email, but at coach@orrinrudolph.com, or they can give me a call. My business number is 903-241-1234. 1196. And I'm sure we'll go through this again anyway near the end of this. But one of the areas that where people can find this book, there's many places. You can get it on my website, but you can go to Amazon. Amazon is a big place where you can purchase this book. You can get it through Barnes & Noble, through their website, Books A Million, if you're a Texan or at least a Southerner. I think, or is it just in Texas, Books A Million? I don't know. But you can get it on the Books A Million website as well. And something else that's in the future, it'll be available on Audibles as an audio book soon as well. So that's also an exciting new development. This book will be available on Audibles as well. I might have missed something that you had asked.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure that so when they're looking it up on Amazon or on, we go to your page, but when we look it up on Amazon or on Audible, it's the official title is Let It Go by Orrin Rudolph, or is there more to it?
It's called Let It Go by Orrin Rudolph, but it's got How to Gain Freedom from Your Past and Power for Your Future is the subtitle. But it looks something. It's called Let It Go. I'm going to put it up there.
Like that, yeah.
You can see it over there. There it is.
Yeah, it looks good.
Let It Go. As you can see, the hand grabbing the barbed wire was a very powerful image for me, because I see that so often in people's lives, just the damage that it causes for not letting go. So yes, Let It Go with an exclamation point by Orrin Rudolph. You can find it on Amazon or any of those places that I mentioned.
That is so good. I know that this message is something that really is needed. Letting go and forgiveness. A lot of people do not understand that forgiveness is a process. It's not an event. I've seen people say, "Okay, I forgive them." Okay. Yeah, no. See, we speak into life and into our life a release that snaps the chains and transforms you. And you know that it's gone when peace begins to birth within us.
Yes.
The byproduct of forgiveness is actually peace. Now, people say, well, I want peace. And I go, great, walk through hell. Why? Because peace is a gift. Excuse me, peace is a fruit, not a gift.
Right.
It's a fruit. Fruit are grown, gifts are given. Can't give peace. You grow peace. You grow peace by allowing this process that Orrin's talking about to grow in your life, to become a habit that is part of your DNA, where you just begin to release things. Because forgiveness is for you, folks. It's not for the other guy or the other gal. It's not for them. It's about letting you off from carrying the baggage and the weight and the chains or the barbed wire like Orrin held there. See, the thing is that, folks, we can't break chains we love. Orrin's teaching you how to get to a point where you go, I no longer want to carry that baggage. I want to transform my life. And the one thing I encourage you to do is get the book and then hire Orrin to literally walk you through the process so that it becomes part of your DNA. Because he really does have master skills at taking you deeper than you ever thought you could. I'm proof of it. I saw how his impact in my life took me to an award-winning speaker and coach a few years ago. I'm so grateful for that. You need Orrin in your life. You need this book. Get it, and get it now. Orrin, thank you. Thank you so much for being on the show today. Folks, get a hold of Orrin, and it's been an honor serving you today.
Thank you so much, Patrick. Appreciate it.